rekindle all the dreams that took you a lifetime to destroy. He'll reach deep into the hole, heal your shrinking soul, but there won't be a single thing that you can do.
What I would say is that Newcastle is the most amazing city that you could possibly ever come to. It's also an amazing football to follow. The journey that you go on when you follow Newcastle United is a journey that you never ever be able to get off once you start, and it's a journey that Steve and Martin and myself have been on for many years, and will always be on. But to have new people coming on board following the journey that we follow with Newcastle United would be absolutely an honour from my perspective. Seeing the football club grow internationally, having followers overseas. What I would also say is that the court cases that are happening, the work that's been done, particularly on the competition case by NCSL, led by Keith Patterson, follow it. If you don't understand what's going on, join the shows and ask the questions, and we'll get you some answers as best we can. But that journey that the competition case is taking is going to be the journey that will give Newcastle United and PIF and the Reuben brothers and PCP a connection that they will never, ever understand once it comes together. It will be the biggest thing to hit football ever. And you want to be part of that journey, join it, support it, get behind it, and we'll take you on a journey. I can guarantee you that. St James's Park is a fabulous stadium, and we can make this one of the best football clubs going with your support and your help. The people of Saudi Arabia, the people of the Middle East, you will thoroughly enjoy our company. I can guarantee you that.
It's coming home. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في نيوكاسل مع وليد. Welcome lads and laces for this special Euro final show with famous person from Newcastle City, Mr. Steve Hasty. It's an honor, sir. Welcome to Newcastle with وليد.
Thank you, Aloid. Thanks for having me, and good evening to the people of Saudi Arabia, and good evening to everybody who's listening in back in the UK. Nerves are coming in, nerves are kicking in, not just because I'm on this show, but nerves for tomorrow.
Steve Hasty, everyone knows you in Newcastle, and I want to introduce you deeper among Saudi and Arab fans who watch my show. What you would love to share to them about yourself?
Oh, about me. I mean, thing is, I'm just a normal Newcastle fan. I got involved in supporting Newcastle because my father took me to St James's Park as a 7-year-old, and that's kind of a rite of passage that every young boy on Tyneside follows. Once you're inside St James's Park with your dad, you're hooked. Your father makes sure you're hooked, and that's what it's been like for me on the journey of following the Black and Whites. I've never really put myself forward as a spokesperson or anything like that. I certainly would not say that I am. I mean, some people know me, some people don't, and quite frankly, I'd rather people didn't, if the truth be known. But back in 2008, when Kevin Keegan left, there was uproar among the supporters, and like many others, like Neil Mitchell, like Bill Corcoran, and many other lads, I stepped forward and said I wanted to help to do something about it, and see whether we could bring the supporters together. And there started the roller coaster journey, if you like. We set up a supporters club. It then turned into a supporters trust. Since then, I have set up another fans group, NUFC Fans United. I've spent a lot of time working behind the scenes trying to set up the Newcastle Fans Forum, where supporters were involved in talking to the football club, which we managed to kick off in 2014 with the help of the fans liaison officer, who's still at St James's Park, a lad called Lee Marshall. He's now he now wears a number of hats. Obviously, he's still fans liaison officer, but he's also the press man. So he's in charge of all the press that comes out of St James's Park and the press conferences, and works very closely with the management team. And then from there, we've carried on the Fans Forum until 2019. And during that time, I also built up a great friendship with our good friend Stevie Wraith. Attended many functions with Steve, who puts on some excellent events, both football matches and evening events where you can meet ex-players, talk-ins and such like. And then at the start of the lockdown, I started with Steve and Neil at Steve's behest, at Steve's request, on what turned into the Three Amigos and is now classed as the Fab Four. Where we added, or we were joined, we didn't add them, we were joined by Keith Patterson, who was doing the fantastic work behind the scenes with NCSL, working on what we call the CAT case, which is the Competitions Appeal Tribunal case. And we invited Keith in because we wanted to keep a close look on what was happening. So that's kind of the potted history of me. I'm just a normal fan. I just go to watch games. I used to go to a lot of away games. I don't travel to away games as frequently as I did, simply because of family and work commitments. But when you get the opportunity to go and see Newcastle United, and when a ticket arrives or when a ticket becomes available, you jump at the chance anyway. Went all the cup finals back in the 90s, the semi-finals, European games and such like. I remember a very wet evening in Barcelona, where having already beaten Barcelona 3-2 at home, we then went with high expectations, only to be disappointed by a 1-0 defeat, which I suppose, considering it was Barcelona, was kind of a moral victory. But no, this is what being a Newcastle fan's about. Just enjoying the journey, enjoying the ride.
When first time I saw you, or I see your picture, it was with when I started. You mentioned the lockdown. It's lockdown changes in very different, weird way. Sometimes it's a stage in our life. I decide to make a channel, YouTube channel. I'm not into that, but I always, one of my dreams to do something like sport, because I'm a physical therapist, but I am more involved with the sport. So I said, let's do a show. So I was new in Newcastle media.
Yeah.
So I was searching in Twitter, and some of things doesn't make sense for me. I didn't understand. Like I always read about PIF and Newcastle, and I know I was reading Newcastle comments, and they said, "What about the strawberry?" I said, "What strawberry? What is it?" And it was discussion. I think, I saw mention of Steve Wraith, but in the Twitter. So I said to myself, "What is strawberry? What they are talking about?" I know the strawberry is the fruit, but what? So I saw Steve Wraith, and he hosting two people, and it was you and Mitch.
Yeah.
And I was want to take attention of Steve Wraith. So what I do, I take the picture. I just start, but I want to be involved with the Newcastlers. Yeah. So I take the photo. I take off. Sorry, I apologize. And I take your photo off the face, you and Mitch, and I put me and Mr. L.
Brilliant.
So I want to apologize in this, and I posted in Steve Wraith. So I don't know if you remember this one.
I do actually, yes, I remember it well, because I can remember when Steve started and he sent us a picture of it and we just burst out laughing. We thought it was brilliant that some people over in Saudi Arabia had first of all got a hold of the photograph and then put themselves into it and wanted to be part of the Newcastle journey. But this was what a fabulous way to introduce yourself to Newcastle fans and to replace. You know what, you could have replaced us on the show, actually, the pair of you. We wouldn't have minded.
But since I didn't mention up, you didn't know it was me until I mentioned it up, right?
Right? No, I didn't know it was you. I just knew it was two people. I didn't know. I had no idea it was you. I just knew it was two people who had done it, or two faces had been put in. But I never put the two together. Yes, you're a sneaky one, you.
Yeah. For me, I always do this. And even my mother always tell me I do sometimes things, but I have to. Something inside me, I have to admit later.
Oh yeah,
I have to do that. Yeah, brilliant.
That's the beauty of people understanding. We love a laugh. I mean, you've seen some of the things that have been put up of photographs of me that people have adjusted and altered, and their hairstyles and such like that. And you've seen Keith Patterson last night, for example, just in fits of laughter. And that's what it's about. You can laugh at yourselves, you can laugh with yourselves, you can laugh with your friends. And as long as it's not done in a nasty way, then we all love a good joke. We all love a good laugh. And I tried to describe it last night when you mentioned the Strawberry. Obviously, the Strawberry is a pub. It's a public house. It's right on the corner of the stadium. It's directly opposite what some fans call the Strawberry Corner, which is basically the southeast corner of the ground. So as you are looking, say, from the camera angle that you've got, if you look into the far corner, that's what we class as the Strawberry Corner, where a lot of the lads who do the singing sit. It's quite a vocal part of the ground, and there's a really good atmosphere if you ever get a ticket in that corner. You'll probably be spending most of your time standing, but that's a different matter, or being told to sit down but ignoring it. But the pub itself is the most amazing pub, because the walls are completely decked out in memorabilia and in photographs and drawings and images of players old and new, all over. I mean, every available wall space is taking up with something about Newcastle United. It's literally decked out in black and white. And on match days, you are at least 10 deep at the bar, trying to get a drink, and then fighting your way back with 3 or 4 pints, trying to maneuver them through the crowd to your corner or the table where your friends are standing. Because you can't really sit in this pub, because there's so many people in it that if you plonk a table in a particular area, then you'd get claustrophobia straight away, because there's so many people piling over the top of you. So they tend to take most of the tables out and just have the tables around the edge, or the permanent seats that they've got. And people sing, and if there's been a match, a win, then everybody's euphoric, and there's songs being sung, and chants from the game, and everybody's building up. And then the TV will come on and it'll show some of the action from the game, and everybody's watching it. And then there used to be a great time when, for example, when Sir Bobby Robson was the manager, and it happens with all managers, I must admit, or most managers, but particularly when it was Sir Bobby. When Sir Bobby came on the TV with an interview, a post-match interview, all you would hear would be 400-500 people in this pub all going, shh, shh, and the whole place would go silent, and everybody would listen to what Sir Bobby would have to say. And you'd hear you could hear a pin drop in the pub. And bearing in mind, this pub is full of people. You could hear a pin drop and Sir Bobby's voice. And then when it's over, the whole place just goes up. A huge big cheer would go up when he was finished, and everyone would applaud. And then you'd get back to chatting to your mates again. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And then there's rooms upstairs, and there's a balcony out the back. A fairly small room upstairs, but a lovely terrace. And the people who run the bar are absolutely brilliant, and the bar staff are superb. You might be 10 deep at the bar trying to get served, but it only takes you 2 or 3 minutes because the bar staff are so good. And once you've been in the Strawberry, you don't want to really go anywhere else, you know, to savour the match day atmosphere. At least not I don't anyway. I used to go regularly before the match. Now I spend my time outside the ground helping to raise funds for the food bank. But straight in after the match and spend 2 or 3 hours in there. And then sometimes down there might be some entertainment on, or I might be going to meet the family. And I go down to the Tyneside Irish Centre, which is just as raucous and just as interesting and just as exciting. But there'll be perhaps a band on, or some Irish music being played, or a singer, or just generally just to have a really good time. And sometimes there's a sing-song, sometimes it's just general conversation. But that's match days for you, you know, wherever you. And this isn't just one pub or two pubs. Every pub in Newcastle on a match day is exciting. Every pub has something to keep you excited. People have a regular bar that they wish to go to. Some people might go to the Hotspur. Some people might be at Rosie's. There's great bars that Mitch goes to, the Bodega on the West Road, and Tilly's Bar. There's some other fantastic bars, and little groups of fans have their own special little place that they go to, whether it's tradition, whether it's superstition. But they tend to meet your friends and then walk up to the game and then come back out, go back to the pub, spend a little bit of time together, and then perhaps some might go home early, some might be out for the whole evening. But no matter where you go, you would see someone in a black and white top. I can guarantee you that. It's great. Match day atmospheres at St James's are second to none.
I really would like to, yani, especially the Strawberry, because I know now, but before when I start, I thought, don't laugh at me, but I thought it's a strawberry farm. So why there is a strawberry farm next to St James?
I think way back in history, when the ground first went up, I think there was actually a strawberry plantation or a strawberry patch that was attached to the old city, and I think the name just remained from that. In exactly the same way as that particular end of the ground is called the Gallagher. So that comes from the old gallows where people were hung back in the 1600s or 1500s, and you know, purely historical name. Obviously, we don't hang people on the terraces these days, but it's just the thing about Newcastle. Newcastle is a very historic city, and names like that, you know, that we've got a place outside the town that's called Cow Hill, and that's because, you know, people had their cows on the hill back in the day when people had cows. You know, we've got an area called the Westgate. The West Gate. That's the gate from the west into the old walled city. You know, and that's the historic nature of Newcastle. We've kept that name, kept that going. There's some really strange streets, some really strange named streets in there, but there are also streets that really have a lot of historic importance. And I don't know whether the people in Saudi Arabia realize it, but there's a street in Newcastle called Mosley Street, and that was the first street in the world to have electric lights as street lights. Believe it or not. The very first street in the world to be lit at night with electric light. And that was Newcastle. Now every street has electric lights and street lights.
That's a really brand new information for me.
Yeah. Oh,
I will add this to the list, the places I want to visit, of course. Steve, now I'm confused. What should I start? With England, game tomorrow, or with Newcastle? Would you help me?
We could start with England, and then we could move on to Newcastle. But I can guarantee by the end we'll want to talk about England again, won't we?
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with your statement to Daily Mirror. Steve Hasty said, "No better time to bring it home, lads."
There isn't. That is 100% true. Even though I didn't say those words Who did it, mind? I'm sure that's an admission for later on as well. That's another admission you're going to come up with, Al-Walid. But it is. I mean, we haven't been in a final since winning the World Cup in 1966. So simply because we've never been in a final, that means that there has been no better time to actually take that one step. There's the famous photograph of Bobby Moore being held high by Geoff Hurst on the left, who scored 3 goals in that cup final. And the gentleman that you can see on the right hand side is Bobby Charlton, probably I would say the most famous Englishman, English footballer there is. And back in my youth, whenever you went on holiday and you got into a taxi, the taxi driver would realise you were English, and even if he couldn't speak English, he would always say to you, Bobby Charlton, and that's how famous Bobby Charlton was. And he was from Ashington, which is only 15 or 20 miles from Newcastle itself. That's where he was born, and obviously his brother was Jack Charlton, who also played in that final. So we had 2 brothers in the final in '66. Jack did become a manager for a very short spell at Newcastle, but I think most people know Jack as more famously for the work that he did taking Ireland for the first time, the Republic of Ireland, to major championships, World Cup and the Euros, where he did come across England at least once. But no, I mean, there is no better time, Al-Walid, no better time to take that final step and bring some silverware home. And the whole country is now on edge, waiting for that 8 o'clock kickoff tomorrow.
Thanks. Our friend Jimmy, the Manchester United fan.
Yes, Jimmy.
In the group, he said something about before Denmark game. He said, I'm not that, I didn't feel nervous like this time since Moscow final with Manchester United and Chelsea. And you replay, lucky you. Last time I was nervous when Luton club against Newcastle.
Yeah.
How nervous you are, Steve?
I don't get nervous. I get excited. I'm excited for the game. I'm not nervous. The reason being that I'm not playing, so I don't have those. I don't have those nerves. I'm not playing in the game, but I'm excited for it. It's just one of those things. I mean, the whole country's buzzing, so that's where the excitement comes. And some people will be nervous. And there you can see the players are from all around the country. You know, there's a few players there that you can see from the south. 2 players from Sunderland, you know, and I'll not hold it against them tomorrow. I'll be cheering the 2 of them on.
All of us, yeah.
Fred and Henderson. Although it pains me that we haven't got any Newcastle players in the squad. I would like to have thought that Wilson might have made it. You know, we've been steeped in players that have played for England in the past. You know, Alan Shearer, Rob Lee, to name but 2. Malcolm MacDonald, of course, who still holds the record. Super Mac still holds the record of scoring 5 goals in one game for England while he was a Newcastle player. So we've had some fantastic players in the past who have played for England, but unfortunately none in today's squad. So we have to cheer the lads from Sunderland, even though they're not playing for Sunderland. They lived in Sunderland, they were born in Sunderland, but they're wearing the white of England tomorrow, and they're wearing the badge. Where is it? There, they're wearing the badge. So we're behind them 100%.
1 to 5. Where are you at this?
I would say that at the moment I'm feeling okay. I'm number 2. I think that by the time it comes to probably 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow, I'll be sitting there as a 5. Well, I'll be sitting there as a 3. I'll be ready to explode with 2 minutes to go if we're leading. And if we're trying to hold the ball like we did against Denmark for as long as possible before the final whistle and we're in the lead, I'll be ready to explode then. I'll be sitting on a 5 by that point, I can guarantee.
I am confident, really, about, I believe, England squad, the player quality is much way better than Italy. I believe, this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But but the problem is for me, يعني, what worries me is the grinta. It's famous word, the grinta. The Italian have a grinta, which is mean enthusiasm. And when we see them when they are singing the shouting the Italian and team, they are really scares the opponent with this. I feel it. This is what worries me. How we can, before we go to tactics, how we can and add to this Italian. They are much more experienced, I think, in the final. I think they know players. They play soon or see not far time. They play with the 2006, the final 2012, 2012 against Spain. They are more experienced in finals than England. This is what worries me. What worries you, Steve?
Right. Yes, I mean, I've got to admit, if right at the very beginning, and anyone who watches the Amigos will know that when we did our predictions at the start, I chose Italy. Italy were my prediction. I think I kept away from England simply because, like everybody else, I thought that the pressure might get to us. But historically we haven't. Although we got to the semis in Moscow in 2018, I thought that maybe this squad was maybe one tournament away from doing well. And I didn't think it would be this tournament. I didn't think we'd get this far, but they surprised me and they've grown into the tournament. The Italians, however, I think the country itself, I think probably, I know we're putting pressure on England naturally because of the excitement and the fact that it's Wembley, but I think the Italians put pressure on their own as well, equally so because of their history and their expectation. And we've seen them come through that. They've won 4 World Cups and they've won 1 European Championship, although I think their European Championship victory was back in 1968. But I think what they've got, what happened in after winning the World Cup in 2006, and then they went to the World Cup in 2010, and that was the one in South Africa, and they failed. They failed miserably. They didn't perform at all, and everybody expected them to perform. I think they got. I'm not sure, but I don't know whether they got beat off South Korea or something like that. I can't remember. But they didn't produce the goods. And then there was a whole revolution in Italian football. They brought Sarri in, and he started to develop the youth. He saw the youth as being the way forward. Now, obviously, they then failed to even qualify for Moscow, and they brought Mancini in, and Mancini's a totally different kettle of fish. And that's how they've managed to go with Mancini's experience and Vieira, Vialli behind him, who's kind of works as like a sort of an advisor, if you like. And everybody knows that Gianluca Vialli was a brilliant player and he did really well at Chelsea, etc. And he's steeped in Italian tradition. But Mancini I think Mancini's a wonderful manager, and they've gone on a 33-game run. And there's 2 ways of looking at it. You could say that they're invincible, or you could say they're there for the taking. And you know what? I think they started the tournament so well, and that's that they went 3 straight away, 3 straight wins. They were scoring 3-0, 3-0. They were playing some beautiful football. And I think as the tournament progressed, we've spotted the little weaknesses in them. England, totally different. England started the tournament very slowly, but Southgate's got the team to grow into this tournament, and they've surprised us. The performances they've put in have surprised us. The grit that they've shown and the determination that they've shown to grind out and then to play possession football when necessary, percentage football, whatever you want to call it. And the way that they performed against the Germans was outstanding in the quarterfinals. The semi-final, again, the way that we put the game together, everything about England has surpassed the expectations of the fans, I think, and I think that's helped to take the pressure off them somewhat. It's going to be different tomorrow, but let's see where it takes us.
Hopefully, Steve. I'm focusing on. When by Grinta, for me, I like to see players. Sometimes even with my national teams. Some players, they give me the confidence, so I'm sure they are giving their player the confidence. For me, Harry Kane is special. And we call him here in Saudi Arabia Prince Harry. But he's very quiet.
Yeah,
it's very hard to tell. Is it he confident, or it's very hard. But Harry Maguire, for example, when I see him, I feel he's too much confident. He always take the ball to the middle field, very confident, which make mistakes sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, Raheem Sterling, I like his overconfidence. I like this about him. When he struggle, he just take the ball and run inside. I like his style. Like when we suffer against Denmark, he's the man to took us. That he got deep inside the Denmark defense, and he got, of course, 100% legal penalty to defend there. They try to obstacle him with the knees and stuff. Okay, I want to know, after the anthem, Italian anthem, what how we can beat this excitement or this grinta from Italy at beginning? Because sometimes I believe it's 1-goal game, and who the one who score. And I noticed in Denmark we try to take it quiet. I saw Southgate doing like this, easy. But this is, I think, will not help against Italy, because Italy will try to score and close. And regarding England, it's not time to just wait and we play, because the goal is easy. We see Jacob Pickford. He was shaky against Denmark, did some mistakes, and this is just yet the semi-finals. So the finals, the Wembley, it's gonna be too much pressure. So, what you believe? What we should do, or what you advise to England players, how to scare Italy?
I think what we saw in the semi-final, the Italian semi-final, when they went 1-0 up, but we saw the Spanish play a totally different style of football against them, and the Spanish countered them. They countered them really, really well. They played their own possession game. They didn't fall into the trap of going into the way that the Italians wanted them to play. I think the Italians tried to coax them into a particular style, but they kept the shape, kept the pattern, and I think that's what's vital for England tomorrow. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to keep your shape. You've got to work. But you don't get carried away. You don't want to see players just running and scattering to the four winds and like headless chickens. But they've got to understand exactly what their role is, and there's a time and a place during every game where you can suddenly switch it on and switch it off. And I think that Southgate has developed that mentality with that team. I think that if, for example, they go 1-0 down, I think this team has the ability to suddenly become expansive, suddenly to put pressure on the opposition. I think they can do that. I think that the Italians, we know, play very, very quickly. They like to burst out. They like to close you down when you get the ball. But we have to exploit the space that can be created. We also have to exploit the two at the back. We have to exploit Bonucci, and we have to exploit Chiellini. They're not the youngest of players. They're not the most mobile at times of players, but they're tough and they're strong. But I think if you're Chiellini or Bonucci and you've got Raheem Sterling running at you, then I suddenly think you see a different Bonucci and a different Chiellini. I think they suddenly revert to form. We did see a little bit of it in the semi-final. We see Bonucci where he'll make a rash tackle, and I think England will be looking to that. They'll be looking to get the ball, knock it past, and Chiellini's a brick wall. I mean, I called him the Godfather. He's the capo de capi. He's the assassin, if you like, that the Godfather would have alongside him every time to go and sort things out in the film. And he looks the part. He looks scary. But we've watched Chiellini over the years, and we know he doesn't like players running at him. I don't think that having lost the fullback, I think, or the wing back, I think that gives us a slight advantage because they're having to adapt and having to rejig themselves. And I think what's interesting as well is that the Italian manager has a tendency to make substitutions very, very early. And he's not frightened of taking key players off. You know, we've seen Insigne come off relatively early in a game when we haven't expected it, whether it's because he's ran himself ragged. Verratti in the midfield. Now there's another player who you could almost guarantee that there will be a yellow card. If you're a betting man, you would guarantee that Verratti will pick up a yellow card. If he picks a yellow card up early, and we're playing our game that I've just described, where we're going to exploit that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Mancini go, I can't risk him in that midfield, and I'm going to have to take him out if he starts at all. And I think he probably will start. So I think it's going to be cat and mouse. I think it's going to be a battle of wills between the two managers. And you put Mancini's photograph up there. I always admired Mancini as a footballer. He was a majestic footballer in his time at Sampdoria, Sampdoria rather. But I thought that what he did at Manchester City, bringing them the success they did, you know, that he came in with a specific purpose, and he won them the league. And you can't knock a manager who's gone 33 games unbeaten at international level. Southgate, totally different personality, totally different. Although both of them are relatively calm on the touchline, but you can see slight similarities, but massive differences between the two. And I think a lot of that comes from Southgate in his own personality. He's a calm. He was always a calm thinking footballer, who, you know, thinks a game through meticulously. And I think that there's no question that he's got a plan, and he might surprise us tomorrow with some selections. Who knows? I mean, Foden, we're hearing Foden is a doubt with an injury. He had taken a knock on his foot, which I heard an interview with Southgate just an hour before I came on air, where it said that Foden was a doubt. Whether that's good or bad for England, I'm not too sure. I like Phil Foden, and I thought he held things together really, really well, and in the final phase of extra time in the semi-final. But it's I think a lot of it will come down, you know, Aloid, to do we go with a back five, or does he go back to a 4, and does he strengthen the midfield again? Does he push Sterling up to play alongside Kane to give Chiellini and the rest of their defence something to think about? The risk of doing that is that you're then providing space for Chiesa, for example, to come through and to gain that extra space that a wing back might have avoided. Handing over. It's going to be a fascinating game. That's the beauty of football, isn't it? It's going to be fascinating to and we'll know within the first 10 minutes how this game's going to pan out. We'll know. You'll know. I'll know. Everybody else, and the commentators will be desperate to tell us as well.
You mentioned, you said the surprise. We need definitely surprise from Southgate because, and you mentioned because we know that Italian Mancini will mark Raheem because Raheem Sterling, he's the key. Also Harry Kane, he will be marked as well. So you mentioned Chiellini.
Yeah,
Chiellini, I think he looks strong and he's strong, but we see Morata dribble him in very quick, easy 1-2.
Yeah.
In the last minutes, it should be. The famous Italy is the defending until last second, but they got beat by 1-2, easy 1-2 between Bonucci and Chiellini, and they scored the draw goal in the last minutes. So I believe, and among years, I watch Italy, as long with England, and I saw that how you beat Italy with the skills.
Yes.
Always the team who have skills beat Italy. I noticed this in the final 2012, 4-0. and Italy was very strong team with Balotelli and I forget number 10 back then. I forget the name.
Was it Del Piero?
No. So after Del Piero, Cassano. I think 18 Cassano. But with a skill, I remember also France, one of the teams beat Italy always. So the team with a skill. So that's why I wish more skillful player to play more, like Jackie Grealish. He's a skillful, and I think he's a better version of Mancini. Of Insigne, number 10. Number 10 of Italy, he's really worry me. He's very skillful and he's very little, petite guy. He moved very slowly. And I wish if we have, because as I said, Harry Kane, Raheem will be marked very well. So we need someone else someone skilled player to depend on, not just Harry and Raheem. So that's why I wish to see Jackie Grealish, but maybe Southgate not prefer sometimes to start with Jackie Grealish. I noticed.
I think I don't think he'll start with Grealish. I have a feeling that, well, we know that he'll keep the two holding midfielders who have done so well for him. He'll keep Phillips and Rice together. He obviously likes Mason Mount, so there's another place gone. The question is whether he plays a back four or a back five. That for me is the key to whether you're going to slot a Jack Grealish in. It was interesting that we brought Grealish on with 70 minutes, 15 minutes to go, and then once we got the second goal, once the penalty went in, he immediately made the substitutions and took Grealish off. He obviously sees Grealish as a bit of a luxury, and he felt as though he wanted to close the game down, which was, that's a sign, I suppose, of a good manager, a confident manager, a manager who has confidence in the rest of his squad, and a confidence that his squad understand what he's about and what he's prepared to do. It's very rare that you would come across a manager that would make a substitution of such a skillful player as Jack Grealish, and someone who, let's face it, all 55,000 Englishmen who were in that ground on Wednesday night were screaming for and desperate for, and made it known when he appeared on the touchline when the numbers went up, how excited they were to see him. And then, within 25 minutes, he's off again. And that's I think majority of fans understood. There was some questions by the commentators of what actually going on at that particular point. But the very fact that the manager had the confidence to do that is, that's a big plus at that stage in the game. I don't know whether you've ever come across that before, but I certainly hadn't. But you look at, I've just popped the Italian team up there from the lineup from the semi, and it was a smashing lineup. I mean, when you think of Jorginho there in the holding role, and Verratti alongside him, Barella, who again has been outstanding during the season. Those two playing as wing backs, really, they have the ability to get up and down the pitch, and Jorginho will just sit there and hold it. And I like Immobile. I really, really do like him. I thought he plays more into that four, turning the midfielder into a four at times, and so does Inzaghi when you need him. And that's how mobile and versatile that team can be. And I think that's the interesting side of it, and whether or not we can combat that, we'll soon find out. I see no reason why we can't. I think we've just got to stay calm, not get carried away by the fact that there's 70,000 in that stadium screaming. And I always say the crowd can sometimes cause panic among a team. We've seen it at St James's Park before. We've seen it many times on TV, where the crowd can get the better of the team and put that sort of added pressure onto them. And I'm just hoping that the players have a good night's sleep, and the players are, because let's face it, we're not talking about lads that we've just picked off the streets here. These are professional footballers first and foremost, all or the vast majority of whom have experienced huge games in Europe before at club level. You know, we've got Champions League winners in the team. We've got players who played in Champions League finals. We've got players who have played in playoff finals, you know, the likes of Phillips. So, you know, these are players who have played under pressurized conditions. So it's their mindset is going to be, you know, I'm a professional footballer first and foremost. I'm drilled into playing a certain way. I stick to that way. And when I get the signal from the manager that he wants to change the style, I'm already attuned to what I need to do to make that happen for him. And the manager also does that with the, you know, for example, you know that if you're a holding midfielder and you see Jack Grealish coming on, you know that your role is then just to basically win the ball and pass it to Jack and allow him to do the running. And the players alongside him have got to be ready for the quick 1-2s and the interplay and bring Harry Kane into the game. And that's what Jack's role is. But his role is also to run with the ball. And sometimes he doesn't get that chance to run very far because they bring him down. And, you know, when you've got, you're then into the realms of free kicks on the edge of the box and danger. And we've seen, you know, we saw in the quarterfinal how what it means when you get a free kick and how quick England can suddenly turn that free kick into a wonderful set piece and get a goal from it, you know. Whether it's a corner or a free kick. So, you know, we've got the stuff in the armory, Waleed. It's just a case of whether it all clicks into place on the day. And same for the Italians.
Actually, regarding the Tripper and Jack Grealish, I kind of like this change because I believe maybe it was we see this Euro crazy in this extra time. Draw last minutes, many teams. So I think this is Southgate was thinking, and putting a Tripper and Walker on the right side confused the Denmark for rebound because it's killing the opponent. That okay, now we are going to defend. It's make so they will leave their spaces, and there will be two right back, Walker and Tripper. They will take advantage of the left side of Denmark. I think it's tactically, and we have also five change. This helps 5 change. So I think this is the reason, and I like this. Maybe he study. I think every move. Yeah. He study every move. This is great about Southgate. He built a great chemistry. So also Mancini make a great chemistry with the team. So that's why we are gonna see brilliant game tomorrow. I hope and I pray God for England to bring it back home, and we celebrate this hopefully inshallah tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what you said there? That you talk about the two managers, and that's why both teams are in the final. You know what they've managed to do. They have taken their squad. They have worked through. Their tactics have been spot on almost every time. The confidence levels that they've got, the way they've made middles, and that's what makes a good manager. Keeping your team's feet on the ground, bringing Saka in, for example, from Southgate at a particular time, taking him out, starting at the start of the championships, not giving him a look in, and then all of a sudden he rattles off a couple of games. Then he's injured, he doesn't play, and then he comes back for the following game. The question is whether he sees Saka as the player to be running at the Italians, or will he switch it and think that, you know, that he wants Sancho doing that particular role, because Sancho didn't let himself down when he got the opportunity. So this is a great problem to have, isn't it? And not only that, but if it's not working with Saka if he's a player and it's not working, or you suddenly realize you need a change and you can bring a Sancho on or a Bellingham, great. I think this is probably the strongest in terms of like for like skillful players that are young and fresh enough to take the pressure, because I think I worked out that we've got some players in that squad that weren't even alive when Alan Shearer was playing his last game for England in the '98 World Cup. You know, when Alan Shearer's career at international level ended, the likes of Foden was just a matter of, 3 weeks old. I don't think Sancho was born, or he might have only been a couple of months. Certainly Saka wasn't born. So those players don't have the pressure that we feel they might have. I mean, when you talk about footballs coming home, again, very few of these players were around when that song came out, when we were talking about what was at the time 30 years of hurt. That's the phrase that was used, because it was 30 years in 1996 since we won the World Cup in 66. We're still singing it, but we haven't changed it to 55 years of hurt, but it's another 25 years on. Maybe it's just the fans are under pressure, and hopefully it's not the players. And that we'll see a great game tomorrow, and it comes back to where we are. I look at some of those Newcastle fans, some of whom I've seen in the Strawberry, some of the lads, some of them I know personally. There's other lads who I've sat on the fans forum with, who I know follow England, and as I say, other lads whose just faces I know from around town, and you know, they follow England religiously. I don't travel around Europe or go to England. I've only ever been to two England games ever. It's not. I'm black and white first and foremost, and England is. I follow England when we get into a championship. I know lads, though. You know, those lads I'm talking about who ridiculously go to every tournament, to every game. They will travel around the world watching England, because that's what they enjoy doing, and that's how they show that the patriotism. And I admire them for it. I think it's absolutely amazing that we've got fans that do that. But those guys do exactly the same for Newcastle United. They have the same buzz and excitement supporting Newcastle United and traveling the world watching Newcastle United as they do for England. I'm an armchair England fan, I suppose. That's the best way to describe me. You know, I'm there with the family, or the two daughters. Well, one's at home at the minute; she's working in the Irish Centre tomorrow, behind the bar. But I'm there with the wife, and we're watching the games at home, and we're cheering the TV, and we're getting just as excited. I did actually. My mum lives in my mother. She lives in a care home. Just at the other side of Newcastle, and she rang me today to tell me that, you know, bearing in mind we're talking about people in their 80s, they've all got the bunting up in the care home, and they've all been given little flags to wave tomorrow. And she said it's been like that for 3 days. So even my mum, who has never been to a football match in her life, never ever, even she's ringing me up saying it's great, the place is all decorated, they've got bunting up, and it's all England flags, and everybody's excited and all this. And she's going to send me a photograph when later on this evening, after she's had her evening meal. She said she'll take a photograph of it, or our breakfast tomorrow, when she's down in the restaurant area as part of the home where she lives. She's going to take a photograph and send it to me, showing us what it's like, you know. So that's great. That's what it's done to the country, وليد. That's the boost. And I suppose, given what we've gone through with COVID, and the lockdowns that we've had to go through, and you know, it's still not right in the country. There's still people suffering. Most of us, you know, have had the 2 injections, the 2 vaccines. But it's the virus is still there, and we all have to be very careful tomorrow. But I think this just shows you that little bit of a pickup that the football's given the country to help us to forget about the journey that we've been on for the last 18, 19 months. And that adds to the buzz. That adds to the excitement. That's the way it is, وليد.
Really, it's very hard to express the feeling and the waiting. Really, and I'm starting nervous already. One thing before we go to, we forget a little bit about Newcastle. Before we go to Newcastle, just a quick, is this we're gonna play tomorrow, or maybe some change?
That's the team that was started, isn't it? On Wednesday. I don't know. I don't know whether, when you look at the Italian team, when you look at the way they lined up with a back 4, I think that team there that we've got will probably lined up to match it. And I think that the 2 in midfield, yes, I'm almost certain that they'll stay. With no Stones and Maguire and Walker are probably nailed on. The question is, would he switch that into them three at the centre and bring Trippier in and play as at a 5? I don't think he can drop Shaw again, because from set pieces and the way that the lads performed has been great. So that would say that if he goes to a 5, would he leave out Mount? I think that's the one that he would leave out, because I think that he would consider the 5 with the 2 holding, and it would be Kane, Sterling, and possibly Saka as the 3. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure whether he. If I was a betting man, I would say he'll go with that flat back 4, and that team that you've got there will be there or thereabouts the selections that he'll make. If I'm perfectly honest. And you talk about Harry Kane and it being a quiet captain. We've had noisy captains in the past. Shearer was not the most vocal captain, but he led by example, both at Newcastle and for England, with his goal scoring. And I think Harry Kane's very similar. I think he's very driven. He's one of those. He's one of those guys that, you get the ball to me and I will do what needs to be done, and that's how he leads. We've had other players there. You mentioned Maguire as a leader. Stones, they're 2 capable central defenders, and we can't really knock the defenders because we've only conceded the 1 goal. So that's where it comes. That's why I think he'll stick to the 4, and those 2 holding midfielders. I thought that Phillips did better in extra time. He seemed to get stronger and stronger, and I think we saw him pushing forward a lot more in extra time. Whether that was because he had the fresh legs of Henderson alongside him with Rice not there, I don't think he'll start with Henderson over Rice. I think Rice and Phillips will be nailed on. And I think that the only other doubt in my head is whether we'll see Saka or Sancho wide, and that's why I don't think there's a place for Grealish at the moment. But I think we can see Grealish coming off the bench again. I'm sorry to disappoint you, وليد.
No. But do you believe sometimes both coaches they are gonna overthinking, and they come overthinking?
Yes,
I believe. So maybe they are, maybe Southgate or Mancini did something, and you think, okay, I will surprise him. I will do something not expected. Do you think that something will happen?
No, I don't. I don't think it will. I think that it's not in Southgate's mentality to do something like that. I don't think Southgate's the sort of man that would run that risk, to be perfectly honest. I just think that he's very steady in his thinking. He's not a risk taker. He's not the sort of person that will do that. I think he's the sort of manager who steady first, stick to the plan, stick to the routine, and knows when it's not working, the players they bring in to give that slight change, only tweaks every time. I don't think he'll suddenly go, you know what, I've never played him all the way through as a starter, I'll suddenly throw Grealish in just to catch Mancini out. Because to be perfectly honest, when you're a world-class manager and you suddenly see with an hour and a half to go a change of formation for the opposition, you just have a word with one of your players. Yes, you've got your own plan, but you have a word with one of your players because you'll have been thinking about it yourself, and he'll turn around and it'll be like, right, okay, you will have the responsibility to close him down, and that's going to be your job. So I think that, and I think as professional footballers, they'll know how to compete. And I think that you can overthink. We've seen overthinking in the Premier League before. We've had managers that have overthought. We've seen cup finals and finals that have been won and lost by a manager who's perhaps overthought in the past. I was trying to think of an example there. Newcastle, a surprise selection. And it also has the ability to deflate the fans on the terraces as well, you know. Most of our surprise selections at Newcastle were not just surprises, but completely out of left field at times, you know. But Benitez was the master, and we're going on to Newcastle now. Benitez was the master of making 4 or 5 changes a game. But often Benitez made a change to a formation because he'd been thinking about that change for 4 games, you know, and he suddenly, you know, he had a particular game with a particular way that he was going to set his team up with a particular player to do a particular role. That's planning. I think getting into a final and then suddenly going, you know what, I'll play Grealish, Bellingham, and Sancho just to catch the opposition out. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Do you believe sometimes, like, maybe some, you know, coach make friends with each other? Do you think, for example, like Mourinho calls Southgate, you know how to beat Mancini, you should do this. Is this things you think could be happen?
Yeah, with Jose,
between them.
With Jose, it could. He's Jose Mourinho is the sort of manager who would ring up and give you advice, especially if he's had a run-in with Mancini in the past. You can imagine Jose ringing up and going, like, oh, I can't stand Mancini, so I'll tell you how to beat him. I'll give you my. In reality, I think that they're all professional enough that the last thing that a Mourinho would do, even though he might want to, would be to tell Gareth. It would be an insult to Gareth. I think all you do is you give him a phone call if you're that way inclined, and you just wish him all the best, and you know you pass on your best wishes and things like that. I think that probably happens at managerial level. I think on the continent it might be slightly different, but you know what? It's just there now. The game's upon us. We're less than 24 hours. Or we are less than 24 hours from kickoff now. Just it's 1 minute past 8. So there will be 1 minute into the game this time tomorrow. So you know the players will be settled in the hotel. They've had their last minute instructions. We've got our coach in there, don't forget. We've got Graham Jones in there. Last minute tweaks and last minute messages, and you know his particular role probably with certain players just to get the best out of them, whether it's defensively with Rice or whether it's attacking with Sterling or whomever, you know. He's in for a specific reason, and that's good management from Southgate, because he realised that he wanted to bring someone in for a specific purpose, for a specific role during the Championship. I mean, it's totally from left field. I don't think anybody in Newcastle expected Graham Jones to suddenly get a call and say, come and join the squad. But the manager spotted, you know, Southgate, he spotted something. He was confident enough to say, you know what, there's a place on my coaching staff because I want a specific bit of coaching, specific thing that this man can bring, and obviously they knew each other anyway from their time in the past. So yeah, that's the interesting facet, isn't it?
Actually, I believe if we continue about England, we will continue until the kickoff. So
we could. Maybe that's the news. Maybe that's a sign of what news, really.
It's Newcastle time.
Yeah.
Just a quick thank you to all the fans for all your support. Amanda and I are truly grateful for everything that you've done and everything you continue to do for the club, for us, and to get this takeover over the line. We really appreciate it. To the fans that are travelling down to London on the 16th, thank you so much. Every piece of effort makes a huge difference. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We are.
I watched late night yesterday, last night, the Fab Four, and it was exclusive video for Merdad. As we saw, your take on that.
You know what? For to have someone of the stature of Merdad to come on and to leave a message, knowing that there was a format which you could do it through the Fab Four, and just to forward that on and say, please, would you put that on to Steve, was tremendous. I mean, Neil and Keith and Steve and myself were were buzzing, just like I bet every other Newcastle fan who's watched it subsequently was. And I think it says an awful lot for Amanda and for PCP, that the passion is still there to be the owners of Newcastle United, alongside the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia and the Reuben brothers. And the buzz that's given us as supporters, to know that despite everything that's been said over the last, 15, 16 months, that this deal wasn't going to happen, or having already been told that the deal was virtually done last April, then to have it snatched from us last July, and then everything that man, Mr. Patterson, has done to help revive the whole thing, to, in his own inimitable way, show that there was conflict, that there was something untoward going on, spotting the fact that the club could put a competition case in. He tried his own competition case. He spent his own money on it. But as I say, to get that message at this vital stage where we're hoping that the arbitration is coming, and really what we want transparency as football fans over that arbitration. We no longer should be in the situation where everything gets kept confidential, that we don't find out how and why decisions are made and when decisions are made. I think, having listened to Mirdad's message, but also having analysed and assessed what's happened over the last few months, it's obvious in my mind that the club, in the form of Mike Ashley and his legal team, feel as though if they get the opportunity for the arbitration to be open to scrutiny by everybody, that means that we'll be able to find out why the buyers were so confident in April that everything was going through as asked of them and expected, why all the information that they had provided to the Premier League in terms of the requirements under the owners and directors test, why all the additional information that was asked of the PIF, and having received all of that, why all the signals that were then put out, as I understand it, from the Premier League when they were asked, do you need anything else? Do you need anything else? Do you need anything else? On a number of occasions to be told by the Premier League, the buyer's side, no, everything we've got is there. That's where we are with it. And then all of a sudden in June, for that to change, and 17 weeks to make a decision that normally on average takes 4 or 5, 6, 8 at a push, to be still waiting 17 weeks later, and then to be told there's a problem. Well, if you knew there was a problem after week 5 or week 6 or week 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, what period during that hiatus, if you like, of a decision being made, at what period did the Premier League find that there was something extra that they needed? And who was it that influenced that? Who was it that brought that to their attention, and why? What was going on behind the scenes to suddenly have the confidence level of the buyers drop to the point where the PIF walked away or announced that we're walking away, and yet the Premier League never came and explained to them what extra was needed? If we're open, if we have an open arbitration panel who allow us fans to find out or to be told what was going on that particular time, then we'll establish exactly what the problem was and who it was that blocked. At the end of the day, it's our game. It's the football is nothing without the fans. Football is for the fans. And when we talk about football governance, we talk about Tracy Crouch, and who's a member of Parliament, who's been given a role by the government to look at the governance of football in general. which came about after the European Super League. When we've got someone like that who's telling us how important the fans are, and yet we have the organisation that is there for us, football, the Premier League, and yet they want everything done behind closed doors, and we're never to find out how and why decisions are made. Decisions that influence our football club. Decisions that influence where my football club might be in the next 10 years. A football club that I've supported for over 50 years. I find that totally wrong. And if nothing else, I want to hear from the Premier League why they feel as though the decision that was made and the way that they went about it, how did that come about? What was the problem? Because at the end of the day, if there was a problem, all they had to do was tell the PIF what the problem was, tell PCP what the problem was, tell the Reuben brothers what the problem was, and then work together to find a solution. And at no time did that happen, وليد, or so it would seem. So that's what fans are going to go to London for next Friday. They're going to be demanding that transparency. They're going to be demanding peacefully and properly, showing that the fact that they feel as football fans that they want their voice to be heard, and they want to know why their club is being stalled and why this takeover is being stalled. And that's it. That's where we are. That's where we are with it. Keith's case was held up by the Premier League. Keith's case has now been taken in terms of the subject matter, a competition appeal tribunal. That is now in motion from what I can gather, but that's on behalf, again, of the football club or Mike Ashley and the particular company that he runs, because he feels as though that there has been a breach of the competition rules as they stand, not in terms of football as a competition, but business, the way that you run a business in this country. And that in itself will be open, and a lot of things will come out of that may give the answers that we're looking for. But arbitration is the opening that we want to see, first of all, because that's the one that is probably going to happen ahead of the competition. That's the one that will come first. So we want them both to be open. We know that the competition case can be open, but we don't want a closed arbitration case first, because we want to know, all of us, why that didn't happen. And I think that, if nothing else, I think that there is a strength of feeling out there among the club and probably among the club's lawyers. And I'm just reading into what I'm seeing in newspapers and reports and such like, and reading on social media and picking up myself and putting my own spin on. I think there's a feeling out there that when we find out what's caused the process to stall in the way it did, that's when there'll be an absolute furore, and that's when we hope that the arbitration panel, because it's out in the open, will have no option but to say this takeover should be allowed to go ahead. That's what we're about. And it should go ahead based on what we knew at the time.
Transparency. Do you feel that there is something that Mirdad and Amanda know, but they can't say it because the arbitration is private? But for me, what's killing me, what is it we didn't know already?
I don't think it's necessarily just Amanda and Mirdad and just PCP. I think Mike Ashley, bearing in mind that he was the owner, he's the person who's selling the football club. So he's the person that the Premier League are dealing with now. Amanda and Mirdad are mere spectators. PCP are literally spectators in this, because the court case is being taken by Mike Ashley and his legal team on both cases. So Amanda and Mirdad and PCP and whomever, the Reubens and PF are waiting for the decision. They're waiting for the green light to allow the takeover to happen. They're waiting for them to be invited back in and for the process to continue and be finished. Mike Ashley obviously feels, because he's part of the Premier League. Remember, his club is one of the 20 shareholders, and he obviously feels as though something's gone on in the background, something he's either heard or been told or has been party to, and understanding the negativity, and he's trying for the positivity. So he might be aware that there's been a 19-1 vote against him, or a 14-6 vote against him, or a 10-10 vote. Who knows? He obviously feels as though that there's something gone on behind the scenes that has stopped him from selling the football club to whomever he wants, and he feels as though whatever it is that's happened is something that really had no bearing on the owners and directors tests that was being put to PCP, to the Rubens, and to the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. So he feels as though there's something extra that they're holding back as a particular reason. And if that something extra is not something that the owners and directors tests is allowed to pick up, then it shouldn't come into the equation. It should not be part of the decision making. You can't suddenly have a set of rules and then turn around and go, oh, but there's this other one as well. And you go, well, those are the rules I was given. I was given that set of rules. I've abided by that set of rules. I've given you all the answers to that set of rules. Where's this rule come from? Oh, we've just invented it. Oh, we're just thinking about it.
It's like, you know what? We'll add this one too.
Yeah. Oh, we'd like to throw this or that. It's what we would
ridiculous.
Call it, what the baseball player. It's a curveball. We've thrown something in that you didn't expect. Well, the reason you didn't expect it is because it wasn't part of the rule book. How would I know? How did I know that I had to fill that form in if you didn't tell us it was part of the rules? It's as simple as that. It's like if you did a physiotherapy exam and they suddenly threw in a question that was to do with brain surgery, and you would go, well, I didn't know anything about brain surgery. I didn't know it was coming. And you would go, I failed my physiotherapy because they've asked us about brain surgery that I know nothing about, that I've never researched, I've never studied, and there's nothing to do with physiotherapy either. I know I'm using that as a but just to get the point over. That's the weird thing about it.
And I believe this is the case. The Premier League stand is very weak. That's why they didn't want to be in public. It's very weak stand.
Well,
so that's why we are eager to. Okay, sure. People will laugh at you if this go to public because it's weak evidence you get.
Yeah, and that's obviously what Mike and his team feel. They feel as though that when it's done in public, that there is so much will come out that means that the panel has to take into consideration, as opposed to the panel knowing about it but dismissing it and not having to tell us why they've dismissed it. If there's something in there that was very, very pertinent that means that the takeover couldn't happen, tell us. Tell us what it was. Just be open and say, oh, well, it was X, Y, and Z. That's the reason why you didn't pass this, you didn't pass this, and you didn't pass this, and that's why you couldn't take over the football club. But to just turn around and either not make a decision, which they did, there was no decision. They hide behind the hyperbole of never making any decision because the Public Investment Fund walked away. And the only reason the Public Investment Fund walked away is because there were certain things that were being asked that were way beyond the necessary criteria of the rules, or at least that's their opinion of the rules. So all we want is the transparency to know who was right. Is that part of the story right, or is it that part of the story right? You tell us where it fell. You tell us the real reason why it fell. And if it's just hiding behind confidentiality, we will never know. And we will never know whether it was right or wrong. That's the other thing. We'll never know what was right and what was wrong. Why should we just have to take some faceless people's word for it? Why? What's the fear of telling us? What's the fear of being open and transparent about your process? If there's something commercially in confidence, that's there, then yes, that can be struck out. But there's nothing commercial in confidence that should then mean that you can't explain your decision. You can leave the figures out. You can leave, if it's something to do with a transaction, you can leave the figures out, but you can still tell us it was because of X transaction or something like that. And so that's the way I look at it. That's why I've been confident all along. I've been confident all along because I wanted to be confident based on what I knew, based on what I thought, and based on what I think the outcome should be, and how we would get to that outcome. That's where my confidence levels comes. My excitement comes from the idea that we will be part owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, partly owned by the Reuben brothers, and they are already entrenched in Newcastle anyway, with a lot of, they own various tranches of the city. They own the race course. They own lots of public buildings and private buildings, and they're committed to do a lot of new building work in the city centre. But most importantly as well, Amanda and Mehrdad, and I think seeing the video that was just put up and listening to Mehrdad and seeing the interviews that Amanda did over the last week with Tyne Tees Television, which is a local TV network, and with Sky Sports, it's got to be exciting to have two people like that who will be fronting up and running the football club day to day with the backing of the Reubens, but just as importantly, if not more importantly, the backing of the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. That for me is a win-win all the way. And that's why that's where the excitement comes. That's where the buzz comes. Naturally, I'm hoping that there's huge investment in the football club and we become successful, and that you're going to be on that roller coaster of success, and the people of Saudi Arabia are, and everybody's going to be buzzing because you're going to take my football club, and we're going to have my football club exposed to millions of people in Saudi Arabia and making it their football club as well, and them sharing the experience. And so there's a selfish side to me because I can see what that can do for my football club. And there's an excitement as well that my football club will become, even if it's just in name only, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, one of the most talked about football clubs in the world. And hopefully, if we win something, that success will then carry on and become one of the most successful football clubs in the world. Having you on the journey as a black and white fan, having everybody else on the journey as a black and white fan in Saudi Arabia and in other parts of the Middle East, because we know that Newcastle United, the success will expand throughout the Middle East, into the Far East, into North America, into Australasia, where there's lots and lots of Geordies already live. There's Geordies everywhere in the world, but they will be so excited that they're not sitting in a pub with 100 people, they're sitting in a pub with 500 people. And there's people in that pub watching that game, or in that coffee shop watching that game, who are all Newcastle fans. And that's the welcome that you'll get. That's the buzz that we'll all have. We used to have it. We've had it in the past. You used to travel, you used to go on your holidays, and you'd see people wandering around in Spain or in Greece or Turkey or in the Far East or in Africa. I travelled to Africa, right out into the areas of South Africa, and saw somebody wearing a Newcastle top, and it was just like, wow, where's that come from? I'm now 10,000 miles from my city, and I've just driving along with somebody, and I go, that bloke's wearing my club shirt. What on earth, And that used to happen regularly, you would regularly. Now it's Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester United and Man City. And why? Because they're successful, because they've been successful. They're on TV a lot. But if Newcastle are successful, then you'll see black and white shirts as well,
I assure you, more than 30 million Saudi and more than 100 from Middle East, Arabic Middle East, you will be in black and white soon, hopefully, inshallah. Steve, we'll go quickly to the question because we exceed, and I apologize because the time. Before I go to fans' question and comments, quickly, are you going to London, Steve?
I am. Yes.
Great.
I'm going to London. I thought long and hard about it. I know the lads. I've heard it. I know some of the people who are organising it. They very kindly introduced me on their WhatsApp group to let me know that what we're doing, and I decided. I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday. I paid my £30 and thought, you know what? Yeah, I like the sound of what they're trying to achieve. So I'm going to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting on that coach and making the 5-hour journey to London. Maybe it's longer, depending on the traffic. And we'll probably be all wearing masks all the way down because we're social. You know, you have to socially distance. You have to think about the people you're on the coach with. And then I'll be joining them. I'll be standing alongside them, whatever they've got planned when they're in London. Peaceful. And I've been assured that the only conversation that they're going to be having when they're down there, the only topic that they're wanting to put is transparency. And when I heard all that, I thought, you know what? I as a Newcastle fan and as someone who's been involved in fan groups for so long, I have to support this. And I have to support it not just verbally, but I have to support it physically. So, yep, I'll be on that bus. I'll be sleeping all the way home, I bet.
Good, really good. I wish you good luck, and I hope I will. I'm still trying to find the chance to find someone there who link his phone to my StreamYard. I wish if I can make it live there. I will try my best.
Let us know. That would be great. That would be great.
Another final in a few hours. Who will gonna win? We just forget about it because we are focused with England.
Wow, who's going to win? You know what? Is this going to be Messi's time? Is he finally going to win something with Argentina?
But in Brazil, they are, sometimes they are, the referees there, they are not quite.
But you know what? It's being played in Brazil, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that the crowd, the referee, the pressure, the rivalry between these two countries, by the way, is unbelievable. This could be an absolutely brilliant final, or they could kick each other off the park. It's that fine balance between when these two came. Neymar could be outstanding, or he could be sent off within half an hour. That's can he stay on the pitch for the full 90 minutes? Will the pressure get to him as much as anyone? I have a feeling with Messi that this could be Lionel Messi's. Well, I'm almost certain this will be his final chance. Yes, he could be around for Argentina in 2022 World Cup, but this could be his final chance of getting some silverware and finally winning something with the national team. And he played outstandingly well, creating goals and scoring goals so far in the tournament. So I'm going to go with Argentina for this one. There'll be hell on it if they win it, mind. I wouldn't like to be a Brazilian. My daughter's one of my daughter's friends that she mixes with in Dubai is Brazilian. And so I'm sure, I don't think he follows football. He must be the only Brazilian that doesn't follow football, mind. But I think even he, if he thinks that they're going to get beat off Argentina, would be shouting from the rooftops. But no, I'm going to go for Argentina. I'm going to go for a victory for Messi. His first bit of silverware for his country. Get that monkey off his back. And finally, he can be back up there with Ronaldo as having won something with his national team.
I wish if I can see the game. It's 3 a.m. in Saudi time, and I have to. But I think I will try. You
can press record on the video machine.
No, these things is not. You have to say it live or didn't see it. Do you like to swim in the sea, Steve?
Sorry?
Do you like to swim in the sea?
No.
You know, is this?
Go on, tell me who that is.
This is our lawyer.
Oh,
Nick
Mr. DeMarco. Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. And he's been
He just posted this before the show, and they found it's important.
That certainly would wake you up, mate. I tell you what, you would not swim. I would not swim in the sea off the coast of Newcastle at Tynemouth or Whitley Bay. Beautiful beaches that we have all the way up the Northumberland coast. But boy, is that water cold. It's absolutely bitterly cold. I'd go up to my ankles and that would be about it. It's a good 30 years since I've swam in the sea. I tell you that. I'm not the best of swimmers at the best of times, I must admit. But no, you'll not get me not near the sea. Nothing over my shoulders. No way.
Is there a message there? Message or hint for us? No.
Sorry?
There is a message in the video from
message. I wonder. I worry to see him. I worry to see him swimming in the sea. But you know what? He sends messages all the time, doesn't he? Or so we believe. Some of the messages he's baking and his photography. I think now he's just showing us how cool he really is. I think that's what he is. I think he's showing us how cool and calm that he's got the time to just go out and chill out over the weekend and prepare himself and having a nice swim.
Personally, when I swim or do something, like in the sea, usually I'm excited about something.
Right.
Usually, but I don't know. Maybe it's something personal or something among people. I'm not really quite sure. But for me, when I swim in the pool or the sea, usually sometimes I'm excited enough to do it. Such a thing. I found a comment, very very funny comment.
Right.
He's saying this comment on the video.
Right.
Okay, I can't say the whole word. Not now, Nick. Maybe next week. But Hawaii man, no more dangerous sports until that arbitration case. Mate, stick with the bread.
Oh, Louis, do you know who that is? Do you know? I can't believe you did.
Jed? No, actually, but I found this very funny. No,
right.
Who is he?
Can I make a disclosure on live TV? Can I live YouTube? Can I tell you that that's my brother, Jed?
Really?
Yeah.
What's the coincidence?
That's my younger brother, Jed. I cannot believe it.
This is only comment I found funny. What's the coincidence?
Yeah. It's the funniest thing he's said for years, mind. He's not always that funny.
Stick with the bread. Steve Hasty, brother. Stick with
that's what a coincidence. That's brilliant. What can I say? He's got me worried thinking about it now. I'm now worried from Nick. Have we got a video of him getting out of the sea? I hope there is. I hope we've subsequently heard.
We have to check now.
God, I'm gonna have to ring my brother up now. He's got his
brilliant, mate.
Fantastic.
But what's a coincidence that I'm hosting you and I only comment to take it's your brother, younger brother.
I cannot wait when he sees that. He'll be absolutely howling. I'll tell my mum now because obviously I've already mentioned my mum once. So we had my brother on the show and my mum on the show.
it's very stick with the bread. Yeah, it's like. Brilliant. Stick with the bread. It's very funny. Our friend Daniel Baines. Do you guys tomorrow? Do you guys think tomorrow game will go to penalties?
No, I don't think it will. I think it'll be over after 90 minutes. I have this feeling. I don't know why. We spoke about it on the show slightly last night on the Fab Four, and I know although both Mitch and Keith felt as though it would go to penalties. I can't remember what Steve said now, to be perfectly honest. But I thought it would be over in 90 minutes. I think I went for 2-1 over 90 minutes. That was my prediction. But bearing in mind that I also said Italy would get to the final, I should be confident. I should be sitting there going, you know what, your guesses are great. You know exactly what you're saying. Quite frankly, we're now at the guessing stage. This is nothing to do with anything other than heart and head wrestling at making a decision. But I just have this feeling that it'll be wrapped up in 90. That's and obviously the heart is saying, and the head, that it'll be England.
Do you think maybe it's one of plan B for Mancini to go to penalties? Maybe he have some experience in penalties, and we have Fred, that our history with penalties is not very well, especially with Southgate.
I think if you had a plan B that was going to take you to penalties, then that's a massive gamble. And I know you can practice penalties as much as you like, and you can always have Jorginho with his little hop, step, and skip at the end, taking the final one, the number 5. But if you remember back in the time when I think it was the Portuguese that held back in the penalty shootout, and they said to Ronaldo, "You take the last one," or he wanted to take the last one because he was so sure that they were going to win the penalty shootout. And he would be taking the last penalty and he would have the glory. And one of his teammates missed the penalty and they were out. They were gone. The chance was gone. I think no matter who the players are, you just don't know how the nerves are going to get to them. And I think that's a massive, massive gamble. If you had that as a plan B, that you're going to take it to penalties, and I think Mancini's a better manager than that. I think, like all managers, you want to win it in 90. You certainly want to win it in extra time. And penalties is the last thing you want your heart to have to go through, quite frankly. And I think that's the same for the fans' mind. I don't think there's any fans sitting there tonight thinking, I hope it goes to penalties. Because if they are, then they're sadly warped in that thought that's what they want. I think the last thing you want is the pressure of penalties, because it does become a lottery. You know, one player slips, the goalkeeper's lucky, that he makes a save, all the other 4 penalties go in, but somebody slipped taking the first one. We've seen the nerves get to some great teams in the past when it's come to penalties. It's not what you would ever call a shoe-in that you're going to win a penalty shootout. Never ever.
I can't. I wish if we just take advantage, and even if we risk it a bit before going to penalty, risk it in 5 minutes, last 5 minutes if we had to.
Exactly. I mean, the other night, I don't know about you, وليد, but as an Englishman, I was watching that game when we played the last 5 minutes out against the Danes. I was screaming at the TV to get the ball into the box to score that 3rd goal. The idea that we were going to stroke the ball out around for 90 seconds at a time, risk losing the ball on the halfway line and being caught with a player perhaps slipping in a breakaway. One of your central defenders caught too far up, another one caught flat-footed. Somebody then slips over the ball, and like Steven Gerrard did, for example, in the famous game at Anfield when Barr managed to score for Chelsea, which kind of blew their chances of winning the league. It's a fine line, and I just did not want us to be playing that football the way that we did. The stroke. I was desperate for a 3rd goal. My heart could not take the way that we played. Everybody afterwards was going, what a fantastic way to play the game out. I was one of those people that was screaming, get it up, go on.
I know the feeling.
And it's the idea that there's always a risk. You've got to be, as a manager, you've got to be very confident in your team that you can play the ball in the manner that we did for those last 5 minutes. But as a supporter, I didn't have that level of confidence. I was desperate for a third desperate for the ball to be pumped into the box, desperate to give Kane the opportunity to score, etc. All of that type of thing. That's where I was on Wednesday night. It's just the way I am. I don't play the percentage game. I don't gamble. I never. Very, very rarely do I put a bet on for a game. Probably count on one hand the number of times I've put a bet on at a football match. Purely because if I did, I would spend the entire game worrying that my bet wasn't going to come in, or annoyed, or so I just don't do it. It's just not in my nature.
Yeah, not the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Daniel, quite saying similar to what you said, Steve, when you said Cellini weakness point, or he doesn't like to player running at them, and he's saying we'll need our speedy players tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no question about that. Whether it's on a breakaway, whether it's to be running at them from distance and catching them flat-footed, or whether it's going past them in the last sort of 10 yards. I'm always one for a winger. If you're playing a winger, then a winger gets to the byline, gets the crosses over not from deep, but from, and bringing it back for the centre forward to be running on and your strikers to be running on to. That's the way I like to see. I like to see wingers who don't stop with 18, 20 yards to go and then put a cross in. I like to see them use the speed, take a man on, get past the man, get to the byline and get that cross in. Because then you've got your defenders then turning. Your defender is now in the wrong direction. Doesn't know what's coming in behind them. And that's the way I like to see. So I think absolutely spot on. We've got to play with fast players. We've got to play your speedy men. You've got to be getting the ball, whether it's neat 1-2s because they're flighty like that, or whether it's giving them the yards in front of them to play that ball in front and get behind the Italian defence. Definitely.
Martin, evening, وليد and Mr. Hasty. Evening, Martin. Hey, sorry, it's just a few minutes.
All right.
Looking forward for the game. Formation will be interesting, and we are lucky that we have a great bench. Better bench. Martin, are you watching the game? The Bob, Christopher, our friend Chris. What does Steve think of those who say we need to hear both sides from journalists? In many cases, wouldn't there only be one correct narrative and other untrue, uninformed, or conjecture?
What does Steve think about it? It depends, isn't it? I mean, what I think what Christopher's saying there, that there's two sides to every story. That's what he's getting at. Yeah, we're perhaps hearing the narrative from journalists who are well versed by the Premier League, or we're hearing from journalists and individuals who are well versed in conversation with the buyers. And we're also hearing the third one to come in is that you're hearing from journalists who have been briefed by the sellers. I think that's what, there's three formations there, but probably two sides to the equation that Christopher's getting there. I think when you look at, say, the narrative that comes out of, let's say, for example, Ben Jacobs. There's a journalist and reporter, and when Ben talks very positively on, very much at the forefront of putting the point of view over of the Premier League and why he feels as though some of the questions weren't answered. But I don't know, from my perspective, when I hear that, because I've never heard what the questions are, I don't know whether the questions were answered. I don't know what was put forward. That's the transparency I want to see. So when Ben talks confidently about it was this and it was that and it was this and that, first of all, my first point is, well, how does he know that? Bearing in mind it's a confidential process, but he seems very well versed in understanding aspects of it that none of us have been aware of. And I'd like to know some of the things that Ben knows. I'd like to know, well, first of all, I'd like to know how he knows. But secondly, I'd like to know in that aspect of is that correct? Is it incorrect? So that I can make my own informed decision. So I've got reporters who seem to be able to make an informed decision or imply something, and yet I'm not allowed to, even though I'm a supporter. That's where I'm coming from. That's what I mean. There is truth and spin, not two sides to every story. Yeah, well, let's hang on. Let's just say there's always spin. Any story can be spun out. I could spin out a story today. وليد could spin out another story with a totally different aspect, but neither of them might be right. But we'll never know. We'll never know what the truth is. If you don't have transparency in decision making, especially in sport, and all decisions are made behind closed doors, and the people who are the customer, which is me and you, if we're not going to be allowed to be privy to how those decisions were made and why, then to me that has a massive impact on the sport and integrity of that particular game. And that's all I'm looking for. If the Premier League open the doors and they tell us exactly why they did not allow the deal to take place, and they present all the evidence and present all of the information, then we'll go, okay, yeah, that's fine. We understand now. But when we're not told what it was in the first place, that's what's caused all of this angst. This is what's caused the anger. This is what's caused the uncertainty. This is what caused the annoyance. And when one party, the buyer, feels as though they have given all the information, then okay, well, if you are confident, Mr. Premier League, open it up and show us why they're wrong. Show us why you were right. That's all I'm asking for, Christopher. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying that there's this deal regardless. I want the deal to be done, and I'm sure. I'm almost certain the PIF want this deal done in the right way. If PIF were anything other than confident that the way that they were going about this deal was the right way, they would have done what happened in the UAE 10 or 12 years ago when Manchester City was bought. They would have done a deal like that. They would have put a structure in place that fitted the narrative that the Premier League wanted to hear. And then the next day, they would have flipped it as Manchester City did, or as the owners of Manchester City did. They would have put a stooge in that looked as though he was going to run the football club, who 48 hours later was no longer running the football club and somebody else stepped in. They would have done everything that they could to get their own way, to get the deal over the line, and then to say, to hell with it, we're in now. You know, from my perspective, I look at it and I see what PIF did was they wanted to come through the front door. They didn't want anything hidden. They didn't want anything that could cast aspersions on PIF as an organization, as a company, as in its international standing, in its reputation as the investment fund that represents the people of Saudi Arabia. They don't represent Mohammed bin Salman. They represent the money of the people of Saudi Arabia that they have been given the responsibility of to invest on behalf of the people of Saudi Arabia, the state of Saudi Arabia. That's the thing. And my thought on it is that what people would say, oh yeah, but it's the Crown Prince, he has autonomy on whatever he does or whatever. But the way I look at it, somebody has to be answerable. So the Public Investment Fund board have to be answerable to somebody. And who better to be answerable to than the Crown Prince? They're answerable in terms of the decisions they make, what they're using the money for, how they're using. That's all. That's all they're there. And the Crown Prince 1 year, but it might be a different Crown Prince in 20 years' time. But it's still the Crown Prince that has that role. If the Crown Prince becomes the ruler of Saudi Arabia, there's every possibility he would step aside, and it would be a different Crown Prince that would take on that responsibility. He might have so much work that he has to do running the country that he becomes the chairmanship of the Public Investment Fund gets handed to somebody else. And great, that's the way it operates. But the whole essence of it is that there's checks and balances and controls put in, and I just feel as though that when you get to that situation, that you have to stop and listen, and we have to see the transparency. We have to understand. Just tell us why. Tell us why you feel as though in your rule book it couldn't happen, and then we'll all be able to move on. That's the way that my thought process, and having listened to the whole saga for 18 months now.
A brilliant reading for the situation, Steve, and you should join the Nick DiMarco and the arbitration panel.
No, you need qualifications for that. I'm just an observer. I'm just somebody who listens to what Nick DiMarco says, or listen to what other lawyers say, and reads and tries to understand and studies the different separate ways that the both parties have operated on. And at the end of the day, I'm just a football fan. I might have become a little bit more embroiled, which would have only happened, by the way, if we had because we're in lockdown, because I've had nothing else to do, like everybody else, and it kind of takes over your thought processes day and night. I'm sure if this was happening and we were just doing our normal day-to-day jobs, and we didn't have the worries and concerns of not being able to get out and about, I think it would have been I might have had a different outlook on it, or certainly not a different viewpoint, but a different intensity, perhaps.
Last comment, I promise. Again with the penalties, sorry. Italy, this is our friend Keith Roll. Italy's record at penalty shootout is played 12 win, 5 lost, 41% win ratio. England record 9 won, 3 lost, 33% win ratio.
1-3 lost 6, and 1-5 lost 7. What is that? 41% to 33%. So you see, the Italians' record, 12 penalty shootouts. That's amazing, and only 1-5, so one less than 1 and 2.
England. This is luck, more luck than or.
This is a lottery now, isn't it? We're into
yeah.
They've got slightly better odds in the lottery than we have.
Last word to you, sir.
Last word to myself. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Let's hope the best team wins. Let's hope that best team's England. Let's hope that everybody goes down to London on Friday, enjoys themselves, remembers why they're there, remembers who they're representing. From my perspective, I'm going down to London. I'm representing my football club first. I'm then representing my city, and then I'm representing my region. But I'm also taking the responsibility of representing PIF, the Rubens, and PCP, because collectively we are all one and the same in what we want, which is the transparency and the answers to the questions that have been put forward. So we've got a lot of responsibility on our hands. Anyone who travels down to London next week has a lot of responsibility on their hands. If you're a Newcastle fan who can't go, please give those who are going your backing and your support in any way you can, whether it's through social media, messages of support. Don't knock them because of what they're doing. Try and stay upright. Let's stay together. Let's stay united. The name's in the club. It's Newcastle United. That's what I would say. And to the people of Saudi Arabia, thank you so much for your support. I hope that this support will carry on regardless. But when I say regardless, I think it's regardless of what happens tomorrow for anyone in Saudi Arabia who is vying for Italy, because there's bound to be. There's probably just as many Saudis who are looking for a win for Italy as they are for England. And I have no problem with that. Some of us will be disappointed. Some of us will be happy. But when it comes to Newcastle United, I just want you to be part of the journey that I've been on for a long, long time now. And I know you'll enjoy it.
Thank you, Steve Hasty.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think it's the biggest game in my career so far. Probably the biggest game of all of our careers so far. I spoke before about doing something special with England would probably always surpass anything at club level, just because of the magnitude, the long wait for a final, the long wait to win a trophy. And yeah, we have that opportunity. So, I mean, to be honest, at the moment, it don't feel too different. You know, we've come back to camp after the game. We've pretty much in the same routine we have been for the last few games. Bit of nerves, bit of excitement, but yeah, as the game gets closer, obviously you're more focused on the team you're playing against, obviously Italy, where the strengths or weaknesses they pose, and just trying to exploit that. So yeah, I mean, sometimes there's so much build up, so much anticipation, but as players we're so focused on just doing the job and going out there and executing our plan on the pitch that yeah, we're just focused on to the next one, and that's the case on Sunday.
He'll reach deep into the hole, heal your shrinking soul.